Hello Exiles, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and with Harvest League now pretty well behind us and Heist League a mere 6 days away, all the players are getting ready for League start. The players that are not big dumb idiots like I am will be practicing builds that are reliable and unlikely to be nerfed. I of course will be playing whatever looks cool and with no real way of knowing whether or not it'll be good. The video I'm bringing you today, however, is a build that's very unlikely to be nerfed in any way and is powerful and a reliable league starter that anyone can play. Today, I present to you the quick and dirty guide to a cold damage over time spell slinger that uses Frostbolt, Voltex, and Creeping Frost, and that can be used by either a Trickster or Occultist. Welcome to the Cold Dot Slinger. Alright, let's get into the pros and cons of the build. Why would you want to play this? Well, one of the reasons is you have some pretty insane range. I'm going to show you a clip right here where I'm basically off-screening a Delirium boss in a simulacrum, and what I did is just get at the edge of the screen where it wasn't quite close enough to aggro and just continue to spam in the same direction. This allows you to cheese some bosses that you normally would have a very difficult time against, but in this particular case I was able to take it down pretty easily. And another pro is the damage. The damage is very good as a baseline early on and through mid game. Now, one of the cons that I'm going to bring up right now is that it has kind of a limited top end damage because you're kind of running a 5-link having to do spell slinger on all this, and it does limit what you can do later game for damage. You might cap off at 2 or 4 million DPS in terms of your dot damage over time, but up until that point you get up to a very respectable number very early and you reach that very high amount of damage without having to require a lot of gear. And that's another pro. It's not gear dependent at all. The build doesn't require any specific piece of gear. There's lots of things that are nice, like Hunter Gloves for instance, giving you the cold damage over time multiplier, but honestly you can run just rares and you'll be absolutely fine as long as you have all your bases covered. You get plenty of evasion, you get plenty of energy shield, and yeah, it's going to be pretty good. But a couple of more cons. Up until you have all your Ascendancy points and are pretty heavily geared, you're going to be very squishy with this build. It is not building a lot of defenses. Some of the defenses come with an insane amount of chill that you'll be doing and a lot of freeze that you'll be doing, but other than that, you're not going to have a lot of defensive layers in this build, and it's also not very hardcore friendly is another con for this, because unless you level it very differently than how I level it, or level very slowly and carefully and make sure you're over leveled, it's going to be hard to take that to the next level. Alright, let's get on with the skill links. First we have Vortex, the most important one, and that's going to be linked with Spell Slinger of course, and then Efficacy, Hypothermia, Controlled Destruction, and Swift Affliction for your 6 links. And you'll want them pretty much in that order. Hypothermia is very, very nice for getting that extra chill effect, getting some freeze chance, all of that. Next, we'll have Creeping Frost, also with Spell Slinger, and Bone Chill. Since you're creating a chilled ground effect, everything on that will get the extra damage taken from Bone Chill, and that'll make it very, very strong and increase your single target by quite a bit. And then lastly, we'll have Frostbolt, which will just be linked to a Spell Slinger once you get your Threshold Jewels. But prior to getting your Threshold Jewels, you'll probably want it on LMP and GMP, so lesser multiple projectiles and greater multiple projectiles, just to be able to get that out. We'll also have Flame Dash with Arcane Surge, Second Wind, and Faster Casting, and that'll help us generate the Arcane Surge, which will give us some more mana regen and some more spell damage, which is very nice. And of course, it'll let us get those extra little charges of Flame Dash and get around very, very quickly. We can also use some utility setups. We can use a Cast on Damage Taken setup if you can find the room for it. The Cast on Damage Taken setup is pretty optional. We also might use Blood Rage to generate Frenzy charges, since it's a lot cheaper mana-wise to use Barrage rather than Frenzy with the Barrage support. Generating Frenzy charges in other ways is also pretty difficult, so if we can't do it in any other way than that, we're going to go ahead and get Blood Rage, get Frenzy charges there. Alright, next I want to talk about the skill tree and the Ascendancy. The skill tree is going to be pretty identical whether or not you're playing a witch or a shadow, so you're either going to be a trickster or an occultist, and the skill tree is going to be exactly identical. It's just going to be that the connecting damage is going to be either to the trickster or the witch, so you'll be able to have either of those set up and take exactly the same paths. We're going to be taking the outside of the tree, picking up as much life as we can, and then lots of chill effect. If you're going occultist, we might want a path to energy shield instead, and then we would change things up just a little bit. But you'll mostly be in the witch and shadow area and kind of dip down to the ranger for a little bit of extra life and of course more chill effect. And other than that, you can get, if you want, the jewel slots are nice. I would highly recommend getting cluster jewels. There's a couple that are very, very good, such as Deep Chill, which gives you a lot of chill effect as well as damage over time multiplier for cold damage, and Blast Freeze as well, which gives you freezes you inflict spread to other enemies within a radius of 12. This is actually huge, gets some cold damage as well, but being able to freeze the screen gives you a lot of defensive utility you might not otherwise have, so I would highly recommend that. Hey guys, it's me, Ryan, and I was editing my video and realized I forgot to talk about Ascendancies entirely, so let's get into the Trickster first. You'll want to go into Patient Reaper first because it gives you a lot of sustain while you're leveling, and the damage over time, 50% is quite a lot. You're not getting it from other means through there. And then I like to get the Prolonged Pain next, just for the more damage over time multiplier. It's 20%, it's quite a lot, and also the increased duration. And then I go defensive, go to the Ghost Dance. You can get Ghost Dance second if you want as well. But either way, last and, well, not least, it's very, very powerful. You'll really feel it when you have it, is Escape Artist. And once you have all those Ascendancies, you'll feel really, really strong. Like I mentioned, you don't have that much defense until you have all the way up through Escape Artist. So if you want to play hardcore and get a lot of survivability and EHP first, maybe you want to pick up all the way through Escape Artist first. That's optional. And then for the Occultist, rather than that, you will be going, once again, damage will go Void Beacon into Frigid Wake. And then you can actually go multi-curse very easily with the Double Curse Chest or Anointing Whispers of Doom. And so you can go Profane Bloom into Malediction if you want. You can have up to 3 curses pretty easily in this setup if you really want as well. So there's a lot of fun with that. You can also just get Vile Bastion for a little bit more defensive utility. It's up to you, but you definitely want Frigid Wake, and that's going to be good as well defensively because you can't be chilled and can't be frozen. So very, very powerful. And yeah, that pretty much covers the Ascendancies. So back to the video. As far as gearing goes, honestly, gearing isn't all that important, but there are a couple of things that are kind of nice. A Rhyme Gaze is really good. You get some cold damage and cold damage over time multiplier, which isn't normally available. You don't require all that much life for the build as long as you have decent energy shield on your helmet, which this gives a decent amount of energy shield over 200, which gives you some evasion that you would also get from your Ascendancy. And then for your body armor, you're going to want a very high evasion, which gives you more ES. And if you can get an evasion energy shield hybrid, that's also very good. Makes it easier to color as well because you're going to need 4 blues and 2 greens. So you can get that set up, and preferably you want a very high number on both with the hybrid, but kind of focusing towards the evasion if possible. You can get Witchfire Brew if you want to anoint for double curse. If you get Whispers of Doom, you can get an additional curse, or if you can get it through on your body by having the influence, you can get that as well. And I didn't mention, you can get Hunter Gloves, which allow you to get a cold damage over time multiplier, which is very, very nice. As far as weapons, you just want +1 to level of all cold skill gems on your wand. That's usually good enough. And then like spell damage, cold damage, attack speed is also very nice because it allows you to have a little bit smoother play to shoot things out. And you'll definitely want 2 frozen trails. You'll only be able to get 1 of them while leveling, but you want to buy your second one as soon as you can. So that pretty much covers it for gear. Let's get on to leveling. As far as leveling, you're going to want to use Freezing Pulse in the beginning, and then Frost Bomb, and Frost Blink to get your damage. Later on, you'll continue to use Frost Bomb for a really long time, and for single target, you'll continue to use Freezing Pulse. You do want to pick up your Frost Bolt early on, but I find that Freezing Pulse is quite a bit better than Frost Bolt, so I would recommend using that. And then I would not recommend switching to Creeping Frost over your Freezing Pulse because it just doesn't do a lot of damage, even linked up anywhere near the early game. If you do want to switch over, you can switch over in Act 3 when you get Vortex, and then you can start using that. Outside of that, you probably want to make sure that you're using Frost Bomb to clear all the packs and Freezing Pulse to get down your single target. And lastly, you'll be switching over to your Spellslinger once you've got your library quest. You'll need a lot of chance orbs for this, as I found out when I was test leveling this, but shouldn't be too hard to get. You might be able to trade them from other players or sell some things for chance orbs, which I would recommend trying to do if that's an option available. And once you get your Spellslinger set up, you're pretty much set. I would recommend getting your additional projectiles with your Frostbolt before you get your Threshold Jewel. Use LMP and GMP, and then you can switch back to LMP or not use one at all once you do get your first Threshold Jewel, and you don't need to use anything on your Frostbolts except Spellslinger once you have everything else set up, once you have both Threshold Jewels. So that's pretty much it. It's an extremely reliable build. It can get you all the way to endgame. I got to tier 16s, no problem, solo self-found. Very, very easy, very, very powerful, and not at all gear dependent. So would recommend this for softcore league starts. Maybe not for hardcore, you'd have to play it a little bit differently. And of course you can do an energy shield version as well. You just get rid of all the life, pick up as much energy shield you can, and it's kind of a similar setup. Other than that, if you want to go occultist. But I'd recommend Trickster. That's what I've tested out. Hope you enjoyed. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming. You can find my Twitter, my Twitch, and any other way to find me, Discord for instance, in the description below. And I will see you next time. Bye!